If you're a criminal, you'll be deported. If you plan to enter the U.S. illegally, your chances of getting caught and sent back just went up. The actions I'm taking are not only lawful, they're the kinds of actions taken by every single Republican president and every single Democratic president for the past half-century. And to those members of Congress who question my authority to make our immigration system work better, or question the wisdom of me acting where Congress has failed, I have one answer. Pass a bill.
Some have suggested a barrier is immoral. Then why do wealthy politicians build walls, fences, and gates around their homes? They don't build walls because they hate the people on the outside, but because they love the people on the inside. The only thing that is immoral is the politicians to do nothing and continue to allow more innocent people to be so horribly victimized.
All right. Is our transition switching from people to people shorter with Nate here? That guy speaks right up to the end. I think that's the difference, right? Andy used to like give us a 10-minute buffer in there, 15-minute deal. Nate, man, he just fills up the hour, and all of a sudden I'm on. I got a mouthful of coffee and everything else. Well, we're here live, and is live stream working? We had problems again last week with live stream. People said you weren't on, then you were on, then you were off, then you were on, then you were off, then you were on. We're getting fed up. It's crazy. I need to do a live audience and just do it live, right? Have them sitting here in the studio. Well, as Nate said earlier, we're on Mount Hood. It's cold out here. If you use the station out here, you get almonds, coffee. So you have to make really hot coffee to warm you up because it's like the soup Nazi. No electricity for you. No heat for you. No cool for you. I'm here with the Santos Vigil, the Wiki Man, on the other side of the glass, holding me together here today. So, hope you're having a good day, and thank God President Trump is in charge. And people, I've never seen people hate somebody. They just hate. It's just like, oh, if his hair's orange, they hate him. If it was black, they hate him. It's just like, hate him. I've never seen such a thing in my life. So, drinking a cup of my pay here today. We're talking for food today. And more and more people are helping me prepare for this show. I got different people that are listeners. They send stuff in and help me out. And so thank you so much. People say, Lou, I think you ought to do this. I think you ought to do that. This is good. This is that. And so thank you for your input. I wanted to mention that next weekend is the Walk for Life. It's back there, it gained notoriety because in Washington, D.C., right? They've done that for many, many, many years. But then they started one on the West Coast. They call it Walk for Life West Coast. And if you want to go and check it out, it's going to be next weekend on the 26th. WalkForLifeWC.com. WalkForLifeWC.com. And so they do it in one of the gnarlier cities they just love abortion down there. They just love killing kids down there. And they hate anybody that has any sort of moral compass down there. Like if you wear clothes, they'll take off all their clothes and masturbate right out there in the street and pretend like they're having sex with each other. They just love it. They love it down there. So this coming Saturday, there's actually activities all through the long weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So you can go on their website, as I mentioned, walkforlifewc.com, and learn all about it there. This is the 5th annual Walk for Life. They say last year that there were 50,000 people that walked at this walk in San Francisco. There's many more that walk down at the in Washington, D.C., But this is cool. So they walk. The rally begins at 12:30 at Civic Center Plaza, and the walk, they go down Market Street. It begins at 1:30, and they say last year 50,000 plus attended. And so if you want to get involved, that's cool. And I wanted to comment on a couple of the speakers. They have some speakers lined up, and they're very inspiring. There's a young woman named Patricia Sandoval. She worked at Planned Parenthood, and they told her, never tell a soul what you see behind this door. So now she's telling the world. Her life, it says, is the riveting story of a young girl who felt abandoned by her parents, and after 3 abortions and work at an abortion clinic, she became a meth addict living on the streets until a miracle occurred. Sandoval is now a renowned full-time international pro-life and chastity speaker, inspiring thousands with her harrowing and exhilarating story of redemption. Sandoval has shared her story through media outlets worldwide, etc. Really cool lady, and I'm sure the pro-abortionists just hate her, and anti-Christian people hate her. Another lady that's going to speak is Abby Johnson. I don't know, did we interview her live? We interviewed her live one time. Abby Johnson. They call her an activist, mentor, mother. She's been a force for the pro-life movement since October 6, 2009, the day she walked away from her job as clinic director at a Texas Planned Parenthood. They had been praying for her. The protesters that picketed out in front of that Planned Parenthood clinic day after day, they prayed for her, and finally it worked. It just wore her down, and she walked out. And the thing that sent her over the edge was she assisted in an ultrasound-guided abortion that ended the life of a 13-week-old baby. Abby's website describes the event as such. She said at the moment, she fully realized what abortion actually was and what she had dedicated her life to. Since that day, Abby has been tireless in writing, speaking, and helping others in similar situations. The author of 2 books, The Walls Are Talking and Unplanned. So she's speaking. And then there's a guy named Walter Hoy, H-O-Y-E, Walter B. Hoy II. He's an ordained Baptist preacher and founder and president of Issues for Life Foundation. He's also the founder of California Civil Rights Foundation, the founder of the Frederick Douglass Foundation of California, an executive member of the National Black Pro-Life Coalition, and board member. Anyway, this guy's busy, and he's really focused. For a long time, the black population in the United States just stayed out of the abortion issue, but more and more as they've learned that more blacks, percentage-wise, more blacks are killed of any ethnic group, more than Hispanics, more than whites. When you look at sheer number, whites kill more of their kids, but there's more whites around. But when you look at the highest percentage of pregnancies, the highest percentage of pregnancies that are being aborted, that would be blacks. And it's a tragedy, but it's no mistake, because the Planned Parenthood and the founder of Planned Parenthood, Margaret Sanger, all the way back to the early 1900s, felt that minority people were they're pests. They're human pests, and they need to be eliminated because they actually lowered the IQ. This is kind of a Charles Darwin concept. They teach this in the local public schools, Darwinism, right, evolution, and that some people are just less evolved than others, and the eugenists, like Margaret Sanger, believed that blacks, Hispanics, and other minorities were less evolved and were kind of like weeds in the garden. And so they needed to be plucked out or sprayed with Roundup. And so the idea was to locate abortion clinics, not just randomly around population spots, but in minority neighborhoods, to make it really easy for ladies to abort their children. And then they actually, this is really despicable, they solicited and educated minority pastors on this is the right thing to do. Can you believe that? These guys are supposed to be men of the word, men and women of the word. And they actually used them. They're kind of like tax collectors at Jesus' time. They went and got Jews. The Romans went and got Jews to rip off their own people, extort money from their own people. So Margaret Sanger's groups solicited minority pastors to convince their own women to abort these kids. It's just unbelievable. So then the other guy that's going to speak is a guy named Father Bouquet, and he's a very popular speaker. I guess he's on a lot of media speaking, but he works out of Louisiana. It's his home state, and he's going to be speaking. So it should be a great time. Some Yuba Sutter people usually go down. I haven't heard this year whether they're renting buses. Sometimes they'll procure buses and then sell seats on the buses to go down and back to make it easy on people so they don't have to drive their cars and look for parking spots, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So check it out. Go to West Coast. Go to walkforlifewc.com. If you're interested and maybe you want to make a trip to the Bay Area that day and get involved in a few hours of the event and then go do something fun down there afterwards or something, right? So, hey, we want to thank the other night, I was going to say we're going to thank Elite Universal Security for helping us stay on the air out here, but the other night it was just raining. It was raining hard, just slashing my house just pelting the house with rain. And on Facebook came somebody that was videoing the little strip mall or the business area at 10th and E. 10th and E where, you have Panda Express and AT&T Outlet and you have Starbucks and CVS. And it was solid water from one curb to the other. You know how it's like, that's one of the newest developments in the town of Marysville. It's the most recent development, and they can't even get the thing to drain. It's just an amazing thing. So you got all these rules, all these inspections, permits, building plans that have to be approved. Then the inspector has to go over and look at all the drainage and inspect it all, and it doesn't work. They finish it all up, and literally, I was talking to one guy, he said, literally, Lou, it's knee-deep. In some areas, it's knee-deep going across there, getting out of your car to get up to the sidewalk. I thought, if it keeps up like this, it's going to flood those stores out. But I thought, isn't it pitiful? You think in America, in California, where they're making 1,000 laws a year, new regulations, manage this, manage that, do this, do that. They can't even get a little commercial subdivision to drain properly. You can't even get out of your car. I mean, I don't know, if you were dressed nicely, you couldn't have stopped. And it showed cars going through. It looked like they left a wake like a boat going through there. It was unbelievable. Well, the reason I thought of Monty Hecker and Elite Universal Security was because their guys and gals work over there trying to keep the people that are trying to steal out of the cars and take a poop over there and urinate out in the public and harass customers going into some of those stores. And I wrote an article in the Territorial Dispatch. If you're curious, you could look it up at territorialdispatch.biz. And the title of it is Starbucks Shooting Gallery, because Starbucks now they've already told they don't pay Elite Universal Security to be there. It's all the other stores, because Starbucks actually attracting the homeless to come there. And it'd be one thing if they just went there and said, y'all, in a business, it's like, hey, you serve everybody, right? Be kind to everybody. But you remember the old days? I don't know if you remember this. Maybe it's before your time. But they had no shoes, no shirt, no service, right? So there was sort of a concept of decorum when you get into a restaurant, because it wasn't all about you. There were maybe 30, 40 other 50 families in there eating. And so you're trying to be respectful and not disturb other people, whether you had children or whatever you had. So if you're running a business, if you had a patron that was going to disturb everybody else, you asked them to leave, or rude, or filthy, whatever, right? You ask them to leave because everybody gets a chance to pay to have the environment or the ambiance and have a good meal or whatever. So anyway, I noticed on Facebook where a lady was in there and there was some homeless people in there making a disturbance. They're creating a disturbance. And the Starbucks people were obviously unprepared to deal with it. They were trained how to make coffee and to be kind to the customer and remember their name and write it on the cup and make change and clean the bathroom and, straighten the place up when they close. They were trained to do that, but they weren't trained in verbal judo or to de-escalate a controversy, right? And so this lady that was in line to get coffee finally just called Marysville Police right on her cell phone there. And by the time they got there, she had already left. But the point is that customers were having to take over Starbucks to manage it because the staff felt incapable of managing. It's kind of like instead of having the police deal with a disturbance, they just don't show up, and then the average citizen has to figure out how to deal with a disturbance, right? Or a car crash, right? Said, police don't respond to car crashes anymore, hypothetically. So we just let the nearest person stop at a 3-car crash like Officer Corona did down in Davis here recently and got shot. That would be, anybody can just do that, right? So now the customers are kind of fend for themselves. So the idea recently, what's come up recently with Starbucks employees is they've been finding dirty needles and people have been bathing and shooting up in the Starbucks bathrooms, right? And I took a guy to Vietnam with me, and I don't think you've met him yet, and I said, hey, dude, when we go through these airports, check out the bathrooms. And I said, you're going to see the difference between Asian, how they take care of business, and Americans, right? So we went through San Francisco airport, right? And I've been through, I said, you've traveled, this guy's flown domestically, right? I said, okay, hold that thought of your bathroom experiences in America. Like San Francisco, man, it can be clean and it can be really gnarly, right? I went to San Diego recently at Christmas, and I'm telling you, San Diego airport bathroom was funky, man, funky. And they just don't stay up on it. But you go into these Asian airports in Hong Kong or Seoul, Korea, and they are like totally perfect, just perfect. And they're on it. I mean, they got people on it all the time. And but you go to bathrooms in the United States, and they may or may not, even in restaurants, and they can keep up with them. They don't put a lot of emphasis into it. But in Asia, you think, oh, third world country. Oh yeah. Even in Vietnam, Saigon, you fly that, they caught it. They caught the vision. In that airport bathroom, man, they're clean. And no toilet paper all on the floor and all wet and crap and towels overflowing this. So Starbucks has got a problem. And now they got hypodermic needles laying around used, people's blood on them, people's whatever other kind of gnarly fluid on them, right? And so then they got a customer going in. You send your kid in there, 10-year-old kid in there, and they run into this hypodermic needle. What do you think? They might even pick it up, right? Say, what is this? So the solution, this is a liberal solution to stupidity, right? Instead of like putting the kibosh on the whole thing, they're going to put in sharp boxes like you would find at a doctor's office. You know how they give you a shot, and then they have a little plastic box on the wall. At the sharp box, you drop the needle in there so you don't have to like run into it in the paper garbage can. And so they're going to now put sharp boxes, assuming that a person who just shot meth or heroin and is rushing, I don't know whether you've ever done drugs or not, or whether you sucked it up your nose and smoked it or took it orally or shot it in your vein, you're not really conscious of tidying up, right at that point. You are not conscious. It's like when you're drunk at the bar, you're not really conscious of your lipstick smeared all over your front of your face, right? Or the fact that you forgot to zip up your pants. You're not very sharp on that, so they're expecting an addict who just is rushing from hitting some dope to tidy up the bathroom and put all their gear away and drop their rig in a sharps box. Pretty stupid. But that's a liberal. It's kind of like in San Francisco when they designed the crap app you could go on your phone and you could see where the crap piles were around the city so you could avoid those areas and not step in it, right, when you're on the way to work. So the city of San Francisco paid to have toilets put in around, porta potties and various things. And so what happened is people started using them to shoot drugs in and to have sex in. Like, oh, let's just have a quickie. You get in and bend over and I'll take care of that. We'll just close the door and have a little privacy. Liberal solution. So anyway, Elite Universal Security, they patrol over there at this place that's flooded. I think Monty Hecker is going to have to invest in one of those little duck boats, little pontoons or something to float around over there to keep track of these people. Or get waiters. You're going to have to get those waiters. But I was looking on the Elite Universal Security website, EliteUniversalSecurity.com, and they said, we're hiring everywhere. People are just not wanting to behave themselves. You know, the Founding Fathers said, hey, this republic thing and this Constitution thing, this is really designed for people that can self-discipline and will manage their own behavior according to the Bible. Did you know that? If you didn't, they didn't want to teach that in school. But it was designed for people that were, that had respect and respect other people and take care of themselves. And so when people just want to do whatever they want to do and to hell with everybody else, then we have to have all these security companies to tell people you're coloring outside the lines. You're over in somebody else's lane. So now we've got all these companies that have to come in. Some of them even packing weapons because some places in the country like Detroit, they don't have enough police to go around, so people are actually paying taxes, businesses I'm talking about, and then they have to hire a private security firm to guard their business every day because people are wanting to rip them off because people are not wanting to behave themselves, and they can't count on the law enforcement to take care of business. So Elite Universal Security, the other day I went over the government center just to go see the county clerk, Terry Hansen, and I had to go empty my pockets and go through a screening, and I thought, how come we're protecting all those people over at the government center? It's not the courthouse, it's just the government center, just like bureaucracy. But how come they get all that protection and I don't get all that protection? That's interesting. So Elite Universal Security, if you want to get involved with them, if you need some help with your business or somebody keeps vandalizing you, maybe you ought to call them. Maybe they can solve it. 749-0280. The other thing is if you need a concealed weapon permit, they're going to do some training course on January 26th and 27th right here in Yuba County. And you can call them and sign up for that January 26th, 27th. And it's 749-0280. Or if you need a live scan, lots of people need live scans for stuff. And one live scan for one department doesn't count for the other department. People say, Lou, I already got that live scan. I said, well, it doesn't count. Need one for this, too. So you can go to get a live scan any day of the week over there. And they do a mobile notary service. You think, man, I need a notary. I never even had this done before. They'll come to your house and do the notary service right there, or come to a business or whatever, and they'll take care of your businesses. They'll take care of your business. So anyway, we're going to be here till noon today with the Patriot, and hang around. It's 2.5 more hours. Or if you're a liberal, I think this is going to give you a heart attack. So go do something better. Take one of those baby aspirin and take it easy. Don't be listening the rest of the day. See you later.
I know you're watching, so pay attention. You hate my freedom, my religion, and my country. You hate me for speaking my mind. You try to control me with violence and intimidation. You think you can muzzle me with fear? Don't ever confuse me for my politicians or my media. I am an American, free-born and free-bred, and I will call you out for who you are. An Islamic extremist who would kill me for my beliefs. You don't intimidate me. My freedom is more powerful than anything you can possibly do, and I will never, never surrender my rights to your terror. I will say what I think, worship according to my beliefs, and raise my children how I see fit, and I defend it all with the Second Amendment to the Constitution of the United States. I cower to no one, because I am the National Rifle Association of America, and I am freedom's safest place.
Drugs, terrorists, violent criminals, and child traffickers trying to enter our country. But Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer care more about the radical left than keeping us safe. The consequences? Drug deaths, violent murder, gang violence. We must not allow it. Every country defends their borders. President Trump wants to defend ours. The Democrats must stop playing politics and support real border security now.
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message. Liberals care more about illegal immigrants than they do about our own citizens. It's time to put America first.
All right. If you just checked in, this is Lou Benninger, and we're out here, the Wiki Man and I, at the Mount Huth at KMYC, 1410 a.m. They call it the Patriot. And every day we come up here every Saturday, and we try to do a live show. Sometimes it works, sometimes it don't, as someone said. And you can call us if you want, but we are a pro-choice station, and we may have to abort your call if it's like going to cramp my career or get in my way or be inconvenient or you're the wrong gender. So it's 530-742-5555, and or if you just have a complaint, that's fine too. We used to have a guy that got drunk, and he would get all flared up. We keep getting him worked up. Finally, set him over the tip. He would explode and call and cuss us all out. When's the last time? It's been 6 months. Maybe the guy came to pass.
A couple of years at least.
Santos says it's been a couple of years. The guy we just sent him over the edge, and then finally I started doing a little counseling on the radio here and tell people you shouldn't listen to this show if it's going to send you over the edge like that. So my heart doctor, I had to get a heart doctor because I went and got a couple surgeries, and he said, we don't know who you are. We might put you under and never be able to get you back. So go get your heart checked over, see if, have somebody look in there and see if you're good to go. So every once in a while they want to check me over, not that I have a problem, but just see whether I have a problem or not, right? And so I had to go get a little tune-up the other day. I had to get a blood test. So I was over there at Adventist Hospital. They're like in walking distance where I live. So I was over there, and I went by that marijuana place they're setting up, that dispensary. So we got the hospital, we got the dispensary right there in case you have a problem. So one of the listeners sent me this deal and asked the question, who wants to open up a donut shop next to the medical marijuana place and call it Glazed and Confused? Wouldn't that be a great name for a donut place, Glazed and Confused? I thought, come on, man, I love this. Glazed and Confused. I love that. And so we got, I was thinking of Gavin Newsom. I named him Governor Nuisance. And so just a week in office, this is another thing that people sent me. It says less than week in office, and he wants insurance for illegals. He wants to fine underinsured citizens. He wants to tax the drinking water, have universal basic income. That means you get a check if you're breathing, you get a check. California wants to be a sanctuary state, no border patrol. He wants to not comply with the immigration, and he wants total open borders, no wall. And his wife doesn't want to be called the first lady. She wants to be the first partner. That's her name is the first partner. The other thing that was sent to me, you remember Columbo? Are you old enough? You know Columbo? That if you could probably look it up on YouTube. Columbo, he was a detective guy, the coolest detective show there was, really. They've never beat it. Columbo. So he says, you know how he would be interviewing somebody and then he would stop and he would start to walk away. He said, oh, just one more. You remember that? You got it down. He got a good memory. Just one more thing. Can I ask this? He said, just one more thing. If you rob a bank in a sanctuary city, is it illegal or is it just an undocumented withdrawal? Just people, people are helping me out here. I don't even need to prep for the show. They're just sending stuff in. So this is fascinating. Oh, the wall is immoral. The wall is too expensive. The wall. So somebody did the figures, right? I would think Nate Black would have had this, but I didn't listen to his own show. He may have already said this. But so President Trump is asking for just $5.7 billion. Sounds like a lot of money, right? I don't think my whole life I will come near unless I win the lottery, but I probably won't win because I don't play. So he owns $5.7 billion. Does that seem like a lot of money to you? The annual budget recently is $4.407 trillion, right? So what's the difference between a billion and a trillion? It's like pretty soon, illion, trillion, gazillion. Like you just get blurred because most people just handle thousands, right? Get paid thousands. So anyway, in other words, Trump is asking, when you divide it, 4.407 trillion by every person in the U.S., and you divide the 5.7 billion with the people in the U.S. to see how much is this wall costing per person and how much is this budget per person, what it amounts to is $57 out of $44,070. $57. So your share of the budget, my share of the budget is $44,070. So $57 out of that $44,070 would go towards the wall. Is that worth it? I think it's a great deal. So imagine your spouse saying, we're not going to work or pay our bills until you give up the idea of spending $57 to fence our yard and protect our children, right? So out of your $44,000 salary, we're not going to fence, like I heard Nate Black saying, we fence everything, right? We fence everything. Like I noticed at the skate park in Yuba City, they got a fence around it, right? And I asked the cops, you lock that at night? Yeah, we lock it at night. At Glad Tidings, there's a fence around it, but they leave it open. And so, but part of the fence is so they don't run off the edge because ours is built up in the air, above ground, not in the ground, but above ground, so people could like go off the edge and break their neck. So, so we fence. There's fences. If you think around, like I noticed, they got a big fence, and it's more and more gnarly all the time around Mary Kovalad School, where I go to. I live in that neighborhood, and they got a big. They just keep adding more and more security fencing around all these schools. Fences, and so it's $57. If you had a budget of $44,070, that's $57. That's the equivalent ratio between the national budget and what he wants to spend on the fence. So this is another one somebody sent me. I'm going to talk about walls in a minute, but this is another thing somebody sent me is a picture of Putin, Vladimir Putin, who's running Russia, and Trump running the U.S. And it says Putin's plan to destroy the U.S. Number 1, get Trump elected. Number 2, secure all the borders in the U.S. Number 3, modernize and rebuild the U.S. military. Number 4, create a booming economy in the U.S. Number 5, create U.S. energy independence. Number 6, create U.S. manufacturing revival. Number 7, fix and secure the national infrastructure. That is going to destroy the United States of America because Putin wanted Trump in there. So honestly, people, like I've said numbers of times, there's a course they used to teach, I don't know if it's still out at Yuba College, called critical thinking. And I always thought it meant being critical of people. But then my goddaughter said, Lou, I got to take this course. It's called critical thinking. In other words, how to think smart, right? And not think stupid. We should call it stupid versus smart thinking. So my goddaughter said, Lou, I got to take this course. Why don't you take it with me? And so I said, all right, I'll take the course with you. And I went out and took the course at Yuba College. I was by far 2 and 3 times older. This is back in the 80s. 2 and 3 times older than the average student. I thought they looked like kids that should be elementary school. They're taking a college course. I thought, this ain't right. So anyway, I really enjoyed the course. I can't remember the man's name who taught it, but I really enjoyed the course. It was fascinating. And I look forward to going to the class with my goddaughter. And so, but the problem is Americans are kind of stupid. It's just amazing. They got fences all around them, and yet they don't think a fence is helpful on the border. And it just doesn't make sense to me. So here's the other thing that somebody sent to me. I just thought it was fascinating. He was having, I just had to go, DMV, right? They sent me my registration. And, of course, my car is 15 years old, so still with this increase, I'm at the low end of it, $25 extra. But they said, you got to go get a smog check. So I drove out and got a smog check. And then I went online to pay my money. I do it online. And they said, well, it's incomplete because when they do the smog check, it's supposed to go right into the DMV deal. But it didn't do it. So now I'm going to get an incomplete registration, right? Because I paid my money, but it ain't good enough because they don't have the smog check. But I paid for the smog check, and I passed, right? But it didn't register, and it's supposed to all be real time, da-da-da-da. So this guy went off. He's got a 2016 Escalade. And he went in, and he paid $731 for a 2016 Escalade. That's one of them really nice SUVs. Is that a Cadillac? I think an Escalade. Is that a Cadillac? There you go. So they penalize people because we're socialism. So if you do good, they kick your butt. And if you do bad, they want to rub salve on your butt, like that Trump butt salve. And they want to give you money free if you don't do so hot or you don't want to work very hard. But if you work really hard and earn yourself a nice car, then you get screwed. So in California, he got so flared up, he took his Escalade and went online to all these states and said, how much is it going to cost me here? How much is it going to cost me there? So this 2016 Escalade, $731. Oregon cost $63. Arkansas, $30. Delaware, $40. Georgia, $20. Idaho, $57. Indiana, $35.35. Now, I don't want they get into the cents back there in Indiana. I thought, man, they got to get picky. Kansas, $40. Kentucky, $21. Maine, $35. Massachusetts, $60. Mississippi, $15. They almost pay you to have a car in Mississippi. It's so poor down there. Missouri, $53. Nebraska, $15. Nevada, $33. New Hampshire, $55. North Carolina, $36. Ohio, $34. Pennsylvania, $36. Rhode Island, $48. South Carolina, $40. Tennessee gets into the cents, and Texas gets into some of these down here. Tennessee, $23.75. Texas, $50.75. Utah, $43. Virginia, $45.75. West Virginia, $30. Wyoming, $30. Compared to $731. Is that unbelievable? And people voted against repealing that increase. The increase. And before the increase, we're way, way, way ahead of every other state. And what do you get for it? You just get a thumb in the eye. Just get a thumb in the eye. Well, I want to share a story. I just get so tired of these pussies out there. People that when you glance at them, they look like a man, but they actually act like a little sissy. And so many of our leaders, so-called leaders, are just sissies. It's just so fascinating. So a guy that listens to the show sent me this Badass of the Week. And the Badass of the Week, I don't know where this is written. It sounds like out of a military magazine, and I'm not going to read all of it because it's too long. And the guy gets kind of editorial. He is editorializing, but the guy's name is Jacqueline. How about naming your kid Jacqueline? Jacklyn. That sounded like a female to me. Jacqueline, right? So he had to overcome that from the womb. He thought, man, I'm going to have to sock somebody really quick to set the mark here. Jacqueline H. Lucas. Everyone with this Ben Thompson writes this, everyone with half a functioning brain knows that diving on a live hand grenade to save your friends is one of the single most selfless, balls out, heroic acts of valor that any human being can perform. It takes a special, rare kind of person to come face to face with their own destruction, resist every natural impulse of self-preservation, and unhesitantly give themselves up in a final, purely selfless feat of bravery, trading in the most precious thing a human life has to offer, their life, so that others might live. It's such a heroic testament to the will of the human spirit that more medals of honor and Victoria Crosses have been handed out for this single act than for any other deed in the history of combat. Unfortunately, despite this being a universally acknowledged feat of righteous heroic awesomeness, the fact that the entire action is over in 3 to 5 seconds, combined with some horrifically tragic consequences of the hero, to make grenade hopping a pretty tough subject to write a Badass of the Week article about. Unless, of course, you're talking about Jacqueline or Jack Lucas of the 1st Battalion, 26th Marines, because Jack Lucas jumped on not one, but 2 grenades to save his friends and lived. Isn't that amazing? Come on, man. I got a picture of this dude. Jacqueline Lucas was born on Valentine's Day, 1928, in some rural town in North Carolina with a population so tiny that if everyone in the entire county showed up at the UNC for a basketball game, they probably couldn't sell out one section of the Dean Smith Center. Cursed with one of the most terrible names in history, Jacqueline. He did the boy named Sue thing and spent his entire life training to be so ungodly hardcore that anyone who referred to him by any name other than Jack would end up forcibly swallowing their own genitalia, eventually enlisted as a cadet at Edwards Military Institute in Salemburg, North Carolina. Things were going fine for a while, but Jack's life changed pretty dramatically on December 7, 1941, when he got news that a super-secret ninja sneak attack of Japanese fighter bombers had just craterized the American battleship fleet at Pearl Harbor into a towering inferno of twisted metal. He took it personally. So Lucas at this time was 13 years old, and his idiot classmates were all hanging around their school doing dipshit teenage boy stuff like slam dunking M80s into public toilets and super gluing their friend's locker shut. Well, Lucas got pissed, like super peed. So he stormed out of his military school, and it was the first of many times he went AWOL in his professional career. He went across the border to Virginia, bribed some notary public to swear he was 17, then hitched a ride to the nearest Marine Corps recruiting station, marched his hefty 5'8", 13-year-old body, 200-pound, through the front door like he owned the place, forged his mom's signature on enlistment paperwork, and shipped out to Parris Island Marine Corps boot camp. He was 13. Lucas made it through the most intense basic training the United States military has to offer, and was made a Marine at 14, and was subsequently assigned to a crappy job of manual labor at a training battalion on Parris Island. Lucas responded to this unsatisfactory spot by abandoning his station, hitching a ride to Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, grabbing the first USMC officer he could find, and telling him there was a clerical error and he was supposed to be stationed on the front lines in combat armed role. I love this. They made him a truck driver at the Marine Corps base on Pearl Harbor. Unsatisfied by the current status of not blowing the crap out of the enemy at all corners wherever he could find them, and denied in all of his requests to transfer to the frontline infantry unit, Lucas spent the next couple of years raising hell across Honolulu. He was arrested for starting a drunken bar fight. He was disciplined for going AWOL so he could head into town and meet girls. He was busted by the military police for walking through barracks with a case of beer, then was subsequently arrested for punching the same policeman in the face that tried to take the beer away from him. Tired of spending his nights in the brig and worried that the war was going to end without him killing somebody, Lucas finally decided, I'm going to go to war, and nobody's going to stop me. He went down to the docks. He snuck aboard a military transport ship headed for the front lines, then spent a month living off crumbs, hiding from the crew because he was worried if they discovered him, they'd ship him back to Hawaii for a court-martial. Of the 40,000 Marines who hit the beach at Iwo Jima on or around February 20th, 1945, now 17-year-old Jack Lucas of the 1st Battalion, 26th Marines, 5th Marine Division, was one of the only infantrymen who assaulted the beachhead without a weapon because he was there. He was not authorized to be there. He changed that pretty quickly. He grabbed one off a dead man in the surf, racked the slide, and charged into battle. Rushing through the brutal, endless curtains of strafing machine gun and artillery fire that raked the beach, Lucas grabbed his newly acquired weapon, charged ahead, undaunted by the explosions and bullets zipping all around. He ran ahead, reached the relative safety of the tree line, and fell in with 4 men fire team that had already started working their way through the dense jungle, trying to clear out the entrenched hardcore enemy. Lucas and his men were making their way through a ravine, fighting every step of the way, when suddenly things got difficult. It turned out, I'm cleaning up the language, it turned out that the Japanese had dug this ridiculously intricate series of caverns and passages and tunnels that ran through the entire island, so they came up behind the guys and started surrounding them. The Marines returned fire, and in Jack Lucas' much-awaited first moments of real battle, he sent his first round through the helmet and the head of an enemy soldier, killing him on the spot. His second round jammed in his rifle because he had picked it up off a sandy beach. So a grenade was thrown into their midst. He jumped on the grenade, and before it went off, a second grenade came in, and he put the second grenade under him. So I won't go into all the details of what it did to his body. It basically, the shrapnel from the grenade went into basically every organ of his body, but it didn't kill him. They hauled him out of there, but his bravery pumped up his crew so much that they took care of the business there at hand. So the true unsung heroes of Iwo Jima with Jack were the Navy corpsmen who hauled his body out on a stretcher, fighting the Japanese with .45 caliber pistols. They fought through the war zone, got Lucas to a hospital. It took 21 surgeries for them to remove 250 pieces of shrapnel from his major organs of his body. 7 months later, Lucas personally walked up to Harry S. Truman and received his Medal of Honor in person. He already made a complete recovery. He was 6 days past his 17th birthday. He returned home to enter the 9th grade with his Medal of Honor around his neck. I'll finish the rest of the story on the backside of this commercial break because Wikiman says somebody else is wanting to talk for a minute. Second hour. This is Lou Benninger. We're talking about a guy named Jack Lewis. I'm tired of all these pussies in the United States, people thinking everybody owes him something. Oh, I deserve this. You don't deserve anything. So we got Jack Lucas. He's a 14-year-old kid, 13-year-old when he lied his way into the Marines during World War II. He was shot, blown up by 2 grenades, went through 7 months of rehab, and ended up standing before the President of the United States getting a Medal of Honor at 17 years old. After the war, after his injury, he returned home and fulfilled his promise to his mother to finish school. That would be high school. He attended the first day of the 9th grade with his Medal of Honor around his neck. He finished college, went on a USO speaking tour, married a few times, Then at the age of 40, decided to get over his fear of heights by enlisting in the 82nd Airborne as a paratrooper. On his first training jump, both parachutes failed. As his team leader astutely pointed out, Jack was the last one out of the plane, the first one to hit the ground. He fell 3,500 feet through the air without a parachute opening. He attempted a commando roll just as he was about to splat on Earth. He not only lived, he walked away unscathed. Two weeks later, he was back on the plane on his second training jump. That one went better. 4 years later, he finished his tour as a captain in the 82nd Airborne Division. Jack's adventures in miraculously surviving death, now complete, ran a successful business selling beef and wrote an appropriately named autobiography named Indestructible. He met every president of the United States from Truman to Clinton, had his original Medal of Honor citation laid out in the hull of the USS Iwo Jima, and died in 2008 at the age of 80 from cancer, of all things. So the next time you want to whine out there or think, oh, well, I didn't get enough, or somebody should pay me, or I need to bury my baby, is there a department in the county that pays for that? Or how do I get free housing or free? Oh, my goodness. Anyway, I saw, let me go back to this. We played this clip on the walls, right? And Elite Universal Security, they just said, hey, Lou, they just texted me. They said, we actually locked the gates over at the skate park because the homeless will go in there and camp at night, right, and take over the skate park. So we go in there and lock it. There are, somebody else texted and said, if walls don't work, why do we have to put a fence around our pool? Honestly, people, only the most stupid people, they must have done syphilis because it ruined their brain. They tell me at the Yuba County Health Department, every time they do a lecture on STIs or STDs at the Yuba County Jail, they always talk about how bad syphilis is and how it's making a comeback. And so people that have syphilis, it affects their thinking. And you wonder, when people are so stupid, you think, do you got syphilis? That's what I think. So I saw these photographs. I don't know whether it was in Breitbart News or whatever. They're photographs from around the world of amazing walls. And so it just makes the whole argument so stupid. So the Pope goes on, honestly, all you Catholics out there, just turn down the radio right at this point. The Pope has lost his friggin' mind. Go on the internet and look at his operation. The Pope's wall has got to be the next. Have you ever seen the Great Wall of China? I have been up there on the Great Wall of China many times. You can drive a small compact car on the top of the Great Wall of China. Do you know that? Oh, yeah, you can just drive right down there. And it is massive, the Great Wall of China. The Pope's wall is as big as the Great Wall of China. That sucker is massive. And he is out telling the United States of America that it's ungodly or something to have a big old gnarly wall. His wall, I'm telling you, is just incredible. And you look at the whole Vatican City, it's the hypocrisy is dripping off the chin of the Pope. And then you go, and you know, in the city of Marysville, they have rules like your fence can only be 6 foot high. But when they wanted, like when I moved into my house, I had a neighbor behind me, a neighbor to the next to me, a neighbor to the next to me, and then a street in front of me. And the neighbor behind me died. And then Taco Bell, which is at one more parcel over, but beyond my neighbor, they bought that house, knocked it down, and put in a drive-through. And the city came to me and they said, hey, Lou, if you won't complain about the drive-through, we'll build a wall. Yeah, they told me. They said, don't complain about the drive-through. They said, can you live with this drive-through? We'll build a wall behind your house. It'll be a solid concrete 8-foot-high wall. I said 8 foot. I thought you could only do 6 foot in Marysville. 6 foot. They said, we're going to do you an 8-foot wall if you won't complain, because every day, all day, you're going to say, welcome to Taco Bell. We're going to do for you. Oh, you want 6 burritos, 4 of those hard-shell tacos? Do you want the hot sauce? Do you want a supersize? Do you want this? Do you want that? I hear that all the day, 24 hours a day. and the wall doesn't help. And so then you hear all the country music, the boom boxes, all the going up and down right behind my house. But I got this concrete wall, right? So if they shoot at me, I won't get shot, right? So, but it's an 8-foot wall. So when I wanted to build a fence between me and the 2-story apartments because they won't see me laying out naked in my backyard in the afternoon, I thought, I'm going to so I extended an 8-foot fence without permission right down the side of my deal. But the second story, they can still see me. Anyway, Hillary's fence, Hillary Clinton, you know her. I'm telling you, her fence has got to be 20 feet high around her house, her and Bill's house up there in New York. Now, I don't know, it seems to work for them. It's a beautiful white fence. It's a very nice fence. And I said, thank you, Jesus. They got themselves a nice fence, and they got all kinds of Secret Service people. But, man, if you want to see a gnarly fence, they say in Israel it's 100% effective. They got it between all kinds of countries, between them and Egypt, between them and all these other countries that are bordering them. And it's these concrete slabs, man, that are like, I don't know, they look like they're very high, 20, 30 feet high, and they're just slabs into how they dropped them into places. I don't know whether they poured them in place or what they did, but it's like a gnarly, solid concrete fence way high with a road by it where they can patrol it. Then they have these watchtowers that are way over the top, twice as high as the fence, where dudes are up there willing to shoot somebody. And then they got other areas of the fence that is a gnarly steel with razor wire on top of it. And so they have it, and they say it's 100% effective. And then you go down to Hollywood. You think, oh, what's going on in Hollywood? Well, it seems like the Hollywood folks, the actors and stuff, they have, around the Academy Awards, they just don't have some security guards, but they got like a 10-foot high, a chain link fence to keep people out of there, right? They don't want, everyone is not welcome at the Academy Awards. It's not an open community. And so that's just the way that is. If you want to go there, you have to have permission. And if it's like if you just want to go in and invite yourself to the Academy Awards, it ain't cool. So if you want to go to the Oscars, you cannot go. They got all, and in fact, they even hang curtains so you can't even see from some areas. You can't even see people you'd like to see. And they even black out the fence in some areas. So then they have North Carolina at the prison. Do you like fence? When I went to Folsom Prison, I went up for a personal tour at Old Folsom. One of the parole officers said, Lou, I'll give you a personal tour. Come on up. And we went through Old Folsom. Oh, it's a gnarly old fence around Old Folsom. But I got a picture here in North Carolina. I got pictures here about 20 different fences around the United States. North Carolina, it's like a 20, 30-foot high with razor wire at the top. I don't know, maybe you would like a prison to come to your community, and because you people don't believe walls are effective or you think they're immoral, let's not put a wall around the prisons, right? Just skip that. So then we played that deal on Obama's house, right? It's like, the media said, there's no wall around Obama's house. Honestly, you can't even get down the street to check the wall out. Obama's got it all blockaded and got Secret Service everybody and got all kinds of gnarly things blocking the road down to his Calorama neighborhood fence. And how about the Democrat convention? You'd think the Democrats would like anybody that wants to come to convention. Y'all come, right? Y'all come. We want as many people as possible. But no. They got steel fences. Only certain people can come, and you have to have an ID, and you have to have a permit, and you have to be part of an in crowd to go to the convention. They just won't let anybody come on in. It ain't going to work. So they got steel fences around the Democrat convention. Oh, let's see. There's a barbed wire fence, big old gnarly fence around Guantanamo Bay over in Cuba. You know Guantanamo Bay. It's like a funky fence, man. It's like on top, it's got this Y thing sticking out and wires going. In other words, if you go up the fence, you're going to have to go backwards and climb over razor wire. It's just like, you don't want to do it. It's just like painful. It just looks It looks painful. It's like it gives you bad dreams just thinking about it. And you just go around the world, and all these prisons and jails have these big old gnarly fences. Guantanamo Bay, it's like serious guard towers, the whole thing. Then the gates of the Chateau de Versailles. France is one of the most recognized barriers in the Western world, it says, because it's so beautiful. And it starts out concrete at the bottom, and then it goes into these spikes, and the point is, they want to keep people out. It's pretty, but they're keeping people out. It's steel, and it's gnarly looking. And just on and on and on. All these people, Hungary, let's see. Hungary built this amazing fence to keep migrants out of Hungary. Did you know this? Notice that? No, it says perhaps no other European nation has a border as secure as the nation of Hungary. The populous national prime minister of Hungary decided to fully guard his country's borders with this fence as a response to the continent's migrant crisis. So they got this funky, big metal fence with visual barriers and circular razor wire at the top. It separates Hungary and Serbia. And then they got roads where you can drive right along there and shoot people if you want, if you ever have a hankering. And then they have guards walking with machine guns, right? Not with loads of bean bags that they shoot, but real bullets. Now, how about Bill Gates? Mr. Bill Gates, Mr. Globalist, he actually has fence and water around his house. Part of his place is on the lake, but he's got hedges and trees you can't see in, and he's got fences around his place. Bill Gates, Bill. He's Mr. like liberal. How about a nuclear power plant having a secure fence? Big old fences around nuclear power plants, taking care of keeping people out. They don't want people in there. Let's see, who else? I got some personalities here, too. How about Elizabeth Warren? Her and her husband, they live in Massachusetts. They got a fence around their house. Pocahontas or Pocahontas, what do you want? Or Hiawatha, whatever you want to call it. They got a funky fence and protectors. They got guards around their house. How about the Olympics? They have the 2020 Olympics. They're going to be they're working on them now in Tokyo, Japan, and they got these big old construction flex fence that goes around that thing, keeping people out. Why wouldn't they want to just be loving and kind and hospitable? Buckingham Palace, over in England, big old fence, concrete, steel, and guards all around Buckingham. Well, why wouldn't they? That's a tourist spot. Why would they want to have a fence around that? On and on and on it goes. Oh, there's one here. Bill de Blasio of New York. He has a brick wall around his place. Isn't that interesting? And he's got security as well. Let's see, who else? I think there's some other New York guys. Gracie Mansion, that's where de Blasio lives, and the governor's palace there. Oklahoma, El Reno, Oklahoma is a federal correctional facility. I'm telling you, they don't mess around at federal protection facilities. They got some gnarly-looking fence. You're just going to get yourself cut all nasty and everything. You put that razor wire on the top. How about that sissy? He just quit, Paul Ryan. I'm so glad to see him going. What a sissy. He's got, he married a woman that's got bajillion dollars. So it doesn't matter how good he does. But his Wisconsin home is surrounded by a fence and brick columns coupled with a natural barrier. So you can't even see in to see what he's up to. You just want to go by and stop in and say hi to Paul and give him a shout out and a wave, and you can't even get in there. Then you go over to Bulgaria. Similar to Hungary, Bulgaria has erected a border fence on the Bulgarian-Turkish border to prevent illegal immigration. Both barriers are lined on top with barbed wire and razor wire and guarded by mobile patrol. Those folks over there in the Eastern Bloc, they don't mess around. They've had a lot of practice with trying to keep people in. But then you get, Mr. Liberal, Andrew Cuomo, his mansion. He spoke out against border walls for the U.S., but when it comes to his personal security, he likes iron gates and fences. And so he's got a chain link fence and big old stone pillars and a visual barrier. And he's got, man, he lives in a big old funky brick house, big old fine looking mansion. It's the governor's mansion, right, of New York. And he's like getting it on up there. So all these people are just hypocrites. Also, we've also seen in San Francisco, Nancy Pelosi, she has security and fencing around her house. What can you say? These people got it going on. Now, I want to give a shout out to Harold Kruger. Harold Kruger, for 20 or 30, I don't know how many years, for as long as I can remember, Harold Kruger was a key reporter for the Appeal Democrat. And he actually had a little column he wrote, and then he wrote articles on what's happening. You know, what's happening around the state, community, what's happening here. Was a great reporter. And finally, for whatever reason, he retired. But he's still got a hankering to write, so he writes and he posts stuff on this Facebook page, this 530 Facebook page. And I enjoy reading his stuff because he's always digging up stuff, because he's got a gift of snooping around and finding stuff. So he posted on 530, the 530 website or Facebook site, the fact that Marysville, city of Marysville, you know, Marysville, it's had its woes, right? People have left Marysville. Businesses have left Marysville for various reasons. And they couldn't expand, or they couldn't get along with the city of Marysville, and so they left. They went across the river. You know, still in America, it's not true everywhere, but in America, you can still get up and leave, right? Just like people are leaving the state of California. I got a whole list of people now that have living all over the United States that have left this area right here, friends of mine. And so businesses can get up and leave, and they move just outside the city or across the river, and they feel like they can get a better deal. So, and they got tired, and many people, even contractors, said to me, my friends, they said, Lou, I'm not going to even do business. I'm not even going to take a contracting job in the city of Marysville because they're just the building inspection department, too hard to work with. So recently they've hired a lot of new people over there, so the hope is that they will be just the opposite. They will be customer friendly. Usually in government, they don't understand that term customer friendly because they've never worked in the private sector, where you actually need to keep customers to make a profit, right? If you lose your customers, then you go out of business. But in government, if you lose your customers, you just go and tax people more. So what the city of Marysville did a couple of years ago is they raised the sales tax, right, to bring in a couple $1 million extra a year. So, but it's interesting, you know, when city bureaucrats screw up, it really isn't their money, so there's not much remorse. If it was out of their pocket, they'd get diarrhea and wet their pants, right? They'd have to wear Depends all the time because they just, if they were spending their own money and wasting their own money, they'd have a freak out, or their wife would divorce them, or their husband would divorce the wife, depending on who was screwing up. So before Dave Lehman, Public Works Director, left, he really screwed over the city. And I like Dave. I went to school with him. I played on the same basketball team. But I don't know. I don't understand what happens to people when they get in government. They lose their minds. And so he didn't file quarterly Department of Water Resources reports. And the Department of Water Resources, I think, fined the city something like $2 or $3 million. And that got their attention. You know, when you get a fine, it gets your attention, doesn't it? Even if it's undeserved. So they got this fine, and the attorneys, they hired a special attorney firm to negotiate. Like, it's always interesting to me. You pay like the local attorney firm $10,000 a month, and then they got to go out and but they can't negotiate. So they don't understand how to do that. So they hire somebody else. So anyway, they negotiate it down where they're going to pay like $250,000, and half that $250,000 goes to the state, and half of it then goes to, they negotiated where they would go to purify the water in Ellis Lake. Clean up the water. How many decades have they been talking about this is pure? If a private industry owned Ellis Lake, they'd have that thing cleaned up in a year. But because it's government, we just talk about it decade after decade. So anyway, they said we're going to take 120,000 or 30,000 and we have to dedicate it to clean up that water. Well, since that time, they hired a firm that hasn't done jack diddly. It's been a year or two, and they haven't done jack diddly, no water. They haven't produced any reports. They haven't done jack diddly. You remember when Walter Munchheimer hired that firm to do the bounce back thing, and they paid all that money? And then when they were supposed to deliver the report, they never got around to doing it. You remember that? It's just unbelievable irresponsibility. So recently, they hired a firm to connect the sewage of Marysville to Linda, because the sewage treatment plant of Marysville was defunct. It was outdated, and the Department of Water Resources says you can't use that treatment plant anymore. So they hired a firm, RGW, this firm, to build this thing, and they said start. But the city of Marysville did not get the proper permits. In other words, you're supposed to get a permit through the Army Corps of Engineers, and there was a hang-up in getting the permit. And I don't know all the details to that, but the fact is either they wouldn't give the permit, or they drugged their feet on getting permit, or the city of Marysville wasn't doing their due diligence. Here's the deal: as a taxpayer, you get screwed no matter who does it. Both of them are government entities that you're paying for with your taxes. And whoever screwed up, here's what happened. Finally the city had to stop the project because they didn't have the proper permits. This firm had already been starting on the project, but all the permits hadn't been secured, so they had to stop the project and they had to end the project. And so RGW sued the city because they put the kibosh on the project after they'd put all this effort into the project. So the other day, the city settled and paid this construction firm $575,000 out of the sewage treatment fund, right? Out of the sewage treatment fund. Now, that's your money that you've been paying for sewage. If you live in the city of Marysville, I'm just going to round it off. I can't remember the exact figure, but it's in the $30-some range. I'm just going to call it $38, okay? So say you pay $38 a month for your sewage. You just pay a flat fee in the city. You know how many payments that is for $575,000? That's $15,131 $38 payments. There's 12,000 people in the city, but there's not that many sewage hookups, right? So that's $15,131 payments of $38 to pay $575,000. So they just took $575,000 of the taxpayers' money and gave it to that contracting firm to payment instead of I always find this interesting. If you're in the right, why don't you fight the case in court? They say, oh, well, we're going to lose more in court than just paying them off. And would you do that as an individual? Maybe you would, maybe you won't. But it's so easy for bureaucrats to give away taxpayer money. We need to take a break, and then we'll come back for another half the show.
Did you know that Article 4, Section 3 of the U.S. Constitution lays out the framework for the state of Jefferson's plan to split California? A state can be formed from the land within another state if the state legislature and Congress approve it with a simple majority vote. 51% is all it takes. Your vote doesn't count in Northern California. California is broken and the time has come for 51. Please visit soj51.net and donate now to show your support.
Check out the Territorial Dispatch. Papers are weekly and can be obtained free at distribution or by mail through subscription. It's the only locally owned and operated newspaper in the region. The paper is the rest of the story. And also check out the E-Territorial. It's an online version of the Territorial Dispatch which features local news and events for the Yuba Sutter, Colusa, and Nevada County areas. You'll also find daily and breaking news updates, current traffic, and weather information, along with a calendar of local events. Visit the E-Territorial at eterritorial.com.
You critics don't define our honor. You try to shame us for doing our job. You teach children to fear us, crowds to attack us, and good people to doubt us. But we will never back down from our sworn duty to uphold the Constitution of the United States of America. We wake up every day, put on our badge, strap a gun to our hips, kiss our families goodbye, and put our lives between the law-abiding and any criminal who threatens their rights. We serve people of every color and creed, men, women, and children in violent, dangerous neighborhoods, because they have the same right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness as CEOs, movie stars, and the political elite. We are Americans, and we are the American police officer. We stand with the National Rifle Association of America, and the NRA stands with us. Together, we're freedom's safest place.
All right, we're into the second half of this show. We're on to heading up to noon today, and then we'll have a sports talk show after that. So we're talking about the city of Marysville, and it's just symbolic of government, right? No one ever takes any responsibility. So the Army Corps of Engineers has to give a permit for this project to move the sewage of Marysville over to a Linda treatment plant that's across the Yuba River. And so they got to pipe it over there, and the Army Corps of Engineers has to give a permit. But somehow the permit isn't given in a timely fashion, so they have to suspend the project and pay off the contractor who asked for over $1 million. So they settled, and it's like, hey, the city council doesn't have to come out of their pocket. The city manager doesn't have to come out of her pocket. The public works guy doesn't have to come out of his pocket. So I think, hey, do we got any money laying around? Oh, yeah, just like, and you know what I got to thinking? If there's $575,000 laying around and we can just pay RGW construction firm, like, how come we're paying so much for sewage? Why don't we pay $20 a month? Like $575,000? And we just give it away? It's like, who taking responsibility for that? It's like, we're paying for the construction, right, to run the sewage over there. Taxpayers got to pay for that. Then we got to pay $575,000 for somebody in government screwing up. And then government says, oh, you guys are so stingy. You don't want to pay any taxes. You know, how come you don't pay us more taxes? You're like, it's like, oh, you're like tight wads. You're tight wads over there. And then they say, oh, well, we want another % of sales tax, and we're going to devote it towards public safety. And then they screw up again. First of all, we got a penalty for $250,000 or around there because the public works director didn't file just reports. That's all it was, reports, right? For quarter after quarter after quarter after quarter. That's his job. He got paid $100,000 to $200,000 a year to do his job, but he wasn't doing his job. So then the taxpayer gets stuck. He goes off and retires at a Del Webb Senior Center, right? A complex over in Lincoln, beautiful place, and we get stuck with $250,000 in penalties that we got to pay right out of the city of Marysville. Then we can't even get the sewage contract working right, and we got to pay another $500,000 to the contractor who got screwed on that deal. It's like, hey, if we got all this extra money laying around, why are we paying such high sewage fees? And then people wonder why it's just like everywhere you look, whether it's in Yuba County, Marysville, federal government, money is just throwing down the drain over and over and over again. If that was your personal money, you would have a flipping heart attack. A flipping heart attack if you screwed up that many times in a row. We had some people call from Nevada County about, like, they wanted what book I was reading at regarding Jacqueline Lucas, or Jack Lucas, Marine, U.S. Marine Medal of Honor winner. It wasn't a book. A guy sent me that write-up, emailed it to me. So you're going to have to Google it, Jacqueline Lucas, Medal of Honor winner. But I like that. Let me just tie this in. I'm going to jump back into government here in a minute. But there's such a sissy spirit of being a sissy in this country right now. And government is littered with people that have no backbone and will not take responsibility for doing a crappy job. Nobody will quit. I just wish people, when they screw up, would just quit, right? But they won't, because they think they're entitled to the job. The spirit of entitlement is just absolutely poisoning. So I love this article. The other night, Sharia Fado, we used to work together before she got married. Marriage ruined her. She wanted to go have kids and run around with her children all the time and take care of them. So she went from 0 to 7 kids overnight. It was unbelievable. She's prolific. So anyway, she had all these kids, and she likes to hang out with them and feed them and take care of them and everything. It's like her thing right now. She used to like to work with me, but he dumped me. We used to be partners at Glad Tidings. Then she dumped me for a husband and all these kids. And so she's always telling me, she brings pictures of the kids over and puts them on my wall. She just comes in and installs photos of her family on my wall. She has a key to the house. So then she sends on Facebook, she's always posting videos of her kids playing athletics. So the other night, she posted one of Sophie, which is her second oldest child, who is an athlete, and she plays all kinds of sports. But in that torrential downpour we had the other night, she was playing soccer in that cold torrential downpour. I thought, I love this. I love this. And so she posted it, and I write back. I said, did she make any girls cry? Because they play rough soccer. I mean, and she doesn't, and Sophie doesn't put up with any crap. If you go after her, she'll knock you down, right? So I said, did she score, and did she make any girls cry? Also my question. So anyway, I saw this soccer article. It showed Sophie. She sells it. I'm telling you, it was raining so hard on the video, you could see the sheets of water coming down on that Yuba City High soccer field. And Sophie, I think she was playing goalie, and it showed her kicking a ball almost all the way down to the other end of the field. So anyway, I thought, way to go. It's freezing rain, and those girls are out there. It wasn't like boys. It was girls were out there. I thought, way to go, girls. Come on, kicking somewhere. So anyway, I saw this article. Female coach of Germany's men's soccer team says she selects her players on penis length. I thought, well, there's a gal after my own heart. So anyway, I got a kick out of this. So it says, female coach in one of Germany's top soccer leagues scoffed at women's empowerment by joking that she selected her male players on the basis of the length of their penis. So this gal her name's, I'm probably not going to pronounce it because it's a German name, Imke, I-M-K-E, Wubenhorst. She's a former German women's midfielder, recently took over as coach of the men's team, one of the men's teams there. And she said, I'm not at all interested in being the face of women's empowerment, she told Yahoo Sports. So the German newspaper called Welt, W-E-L-T, recently asked her half-jokingly if, when she walks into the locker room of the guys, she's a female, right? Whether she gives a shout out before she walks in so the guys can cover up. And it says there was nothing dainty or politically correct about her reply. Of course not, she said. I'm a professional. I base my selection of my players on penis lengths. So I love her response. The 30-year-old Wubenhorst, that's her name, last name, said she does not want to be thought of as a pioneer for women. I said, way to go, Imke. I like Imke. The topic bounces off me, she said. I want to be judged on performance, not on whether I'm a woman or a man. I said, way to go. She said, I don't have a problem commanding authority. I'm a teacher, the coach said. With her team sitting at the bottom of the league, She says she has no time for feminist activities. We only have 12 games left to stay in the league. It's going to be a tough job. She also noted that some have termed the difficult task of bringing the team back from the brink as a suicide mission. In other words, she got hired to take on a team that was in the cellar of the league. She said, the coach said she is more worried that if the team doesn't start winning, it will be blamed on the fact that I am a woman. You know, it's interesting to me. The women want to be equal, but then they want special privileges. And obviously, Imke isn't concerned about that. Well, I noticed in the news that our Ventura, our county administrator from Ventura, who in 2 years, over 2 years and 3 or 4 months of serving Sutter County, I don't think he ever could pronounce Sutter correctly, because he kept saying Ventura County in the meetings, because, he left his heart in Ventura County. His kids stayed there. His wife stayed there. He commuted back and forth for 2.5 years. It's interesting. I notice firefighters and cops, they don't want to live in the city. They don't want to spend money in the city or live in the city where they serve. And so, they're making so much money, they don't have to live in like Marysville or anything or Yuba County. They could live in another county where it's nicer. And they just come in and make their money and leave. So out of all the United States, and hire a headhunting firm, I don't know, they paid him $25,000 to $50,000 probably. The best they could do was find a guy that was unanimously fired by the Thousand Oaks City Council after working there for more than 10 or 12 years, I think. He took over for a guy, a well-liked guy that ran the city for many, many years, who died. He got sick and died. So they hired Scott Mitnick because they liked him. They thought, oh, this is a good guy. He's done good here. He's a good assistant, et cetera, et cetera. So they hired him. Worst mistake they ever made. The guy's a narcissist. And so pretty soon he was hustling businesses that did business with the city, getting money from them for his kids' sports teams. Then he didn't like the high school, the way they handle a sports team. He tried to muscle people out of their jobs, and he was doing personal business on company time. It was a whole list of things. They got so pissed off at Thousand Oaks. Usually government is so scared when they fire somebody or let somebody go that they never even comment. Well, how come they fired? Well, we can't make a comment about that. It's a personnel issue. Well, we can't say anything about that. We got people slit throats all up and down the hallway. Well, we can't make a comment about that. So, but in Thousand Oaks, they went public. They went gnarly on Scott Mitnick, and they were furious that he not only was cheating the taxpayer out of the money they paid him because he's doing personal business on company time and manipulating businesses that were doing business with the Thousand Oaks, but they lied about it. But he lied to the city council. And so they got PO'd and they went public. And you can look it up right now in the newspapers down there, and I read all the articles. In fact, I talked to the reporter who wrote some of the articles. And so with all that background, it's interesting when people vet someone, when people don't vet a person, check them out, do a background check, woe to them, right? Every once in a while, somebody come to my door and they'll say, we're doing a background check on somebody. You know them? They say you know them. And what do you think of this person? They do a background check. But sometimes, woe to the person who doesn't do a background check when they're hiring somebody on a big, important job, right? So they did a background check. This really speaks poorly of the county of Sutter. They did a background check on this dude, and out of all the people in the United States of America that they could have found, and they say, oh, well, the headhunter went out, and this is the best we could find of all the people that applied. I thought, well, what's the matter with, I've seen it where we just throw out all the picks, and we throw the net out again. But no, they didn't do that. And so the main two guys, Jim Whitaker, who later was fired from the city of Yuba City for fondling women. And Dan Flores, who is a sharp business guy, and I don't think he would have hired a guy. I don't think Dan would have hired him for his own business. You think so, Dan? You think you still would have hired him for your own business? They hired this guy, and he didn't even do his own negotiating. That's a bad sign right there. When you send an attorney in to negotiate your contract, and I don't know how often this guy even worked. They say he was earning $330,000 a year. I was trying to figure out something on the internet about these county administrators, and I can't figure out even how many days he actually was expected to show up. He was flying back and forth to Ventura County. He didn't even live up here. He tried to convince people, I live here, I live here, I live here. But he's always wanting to get on that Southwest Air and fly back to Southern California. And he kept in the meetings, he would stumble across, when we refer to Sutter County, he'd call it Ventura County. His heart was in Ventura County. I don't really care. The fascinating thing to me was paying a guy $330,000 a year. If you make believe that he worked 365 days a year, in other words, even when he was off, he was on, he's almost making $1,000 a day. If you deduct off the weekends and just divide the Monday through Fridays into 330,000, that means he made over $1,000 a day. If you take off another 30 days for just like holidays, government holidays, and maybe a vacation. Somebody told me he came in with like a lot of extra vacation time. I noticed on Plumas County, they're advertising for a CAO. They're only wanting to pay him $90,000 a year up there in Plumas County. Of course, it's a very small county. $90,000 a year, and I think they start out with 13 days retirement. But I think Scott came in with all kinds of days. So if you take off about 82 days, take off the weekends plus 30 more days, that's 281 days. And I don't even think he worked that many days. But if you take off that means he earned about $1,200 every day he sat in his office. And actually, I don't even think he worked that many days. So my hunch is that maybe it's, now, I know everybody always says I always do say the wrong thing and make up stuff, but if you want to send me the statistics on how many days he actually worked and how much the money worked out to, maybe it's turned out we're paying him $1,200 or $1,300 or $1,400 a day. That sounds like an entertainer to me, and I didn't think the guy entertained at all. I didn't think he was funny. He wasn't like a good singer. He wasn't a good actor, right? He was just a narcissist. Right? And I got this big old news release from Chuck Smith. And it just, when somebody is going out of their way to try to convince you of something, all their accomplishments, well, he put the toilet paper in right so it rolls off the top instead of underneath. They just, he wore good cologne. It's just like this list of stuff. It's like, wait a minute. He didn't cure cancer. Now, that would be a good thing. But just showing up and doing his job, we talk about it like he hit 700 home runs, right? He did something extraordinary by coming to Sutter County and gracing us with his presence and like doing administrative type work, like hiring a different firm to take over the medical. That's a big accomplishment. Or let's see, leasing out the Kmart building to start. That is a huge accomplishment. Hey, you know something? In the private sector, that ain't crap. All those accomplishments on that news release, Chuck, that ain't jack diddly in the private sector. It's like you just do that. It's like you hire a guy. He did backhoe work. He did a good trench, 150 feet long, 10 feet deep, and 3 feet wide. That was as great. No, that's just what you're expected to do. That's what your talent is, and we paid you well for it, and thank you for showing up to work. God bless you and all that stuff. But to list a big old news release, they paid, the county of Sutter paid between $25,000, $30,000, $40,000, headhunter, right? Now, I was wondering the other day. I just think about these things. Maybe your mind doesn't work this way. I was thinking, did Whitaker and Dan the Mexican Flores, did those guys know that this guy was going to come up here after spending all that money for a headhunter, and he's only going to serve for 2 years, and he's going to ditch the city? In fact, I think he told one of the department heads he's only coming up here to clean up his resume, then he's going to hit the road jack. Now, if that's the case, why would you hire a guy and pay him this fantastic amount of money? Like a rock, that's like a entertainment money. An entertainer would make that kind of money. Why would you pay him that kind of money to just do routine? He didn't really revolutionize anything in Sutter County. He just did routine bureaucratic decisions, right? Didn't cure cancer. Diabetes is still here. He couldn't solve the homeless situation. He didn't stop the flood of drugs into the county. There was no miracles here. He just did his job, right? He showed up. He showed up quite a few of the days. I don't even know whether he did 5 days a week. And we paid him this fantastic money. Did Dan Flores and Jim Whitaker know that he was just going to serve 2 years? Why would you pay $25,000 or $35,000 or $45,000 for a headhunter for a guy that would only serve as an interim? That's what he was, an interim CAO. And he said now he's concerned about his family. I mean, my God, if I lived in Ventura County, I would be concerned about my family. If they just gave me the job at the other end of the state and I knew I had to spend most of my time up there and you cared about your wife, that's pretty gnarly. And now all of a sudden he's concerned about his wife and family. So he's returning. Now we have to, I am presuming that the supervisors don't think that the human resources director is sharp enough to hire a new administrator without getting another headhunting firm. Now we got to, after we paid him, and somebody said he's going to want severance pay. When you sever yourself, how come you get severance pay? I just don't understand it. So Placer County, it's interesting to me. I was saying, Placer County. Then I looked, there's hardly anybody lives in Placer County. That's why they only pay the dude up there $90,000 a year. I thought, man, the city of Marysville, they get paid more at the city of Marysville to run the city of Marysville than the person to run whole county in Placer County. And they got more people in Placer County than the city of Marysville. How's that work? These salaries just totally mystify me. Now, the interesting thing about Scott Mitnick is that they hired, or they didn't hire, but they solicited a group of professionals, including Robert Bendorf and from Yuba County. They had a group of professional people to evaluate, and they had a group of citizens evaluate, and the professional said, don't hire him. It's always fascinating when it's just like the homeless consortium, they have the homeless consortium decide where the homeless should go, and they decide, we want it to go over there to location A. Then when they get together, they say, no, we don't want to do that. We're going to go B. Why have the homeless consortium? Why have a professional committee when there's two supervisors, Whitaker and Flores, decide this is our guy? He's been rejected by Thousand Oaks. He'd been there for more than a decade. And then they find out who he was, and they kicked him to the curb in a big way. And they said, that's the best guy for us. And now he's gone in 2 years and 4 months and just cashed in on his retirement, and Sutter County's on the hook for paying it. We got ripped off, folks. That's called getting punked. I don't care what Chuck Smith writes.
Welcome back to Reality Check on MRC TV. I'm Brittany Hughes, and it's officially day 25 of this partial government shutdown. And you know, Democrats still refuse to commit that $5.7 billion that Trump's requested for part of a border wall to help secure our country against rampant illegal immigration. Now, after they get done calling it racist, xenophobic, and anti-American, they like to throw out this argument, that it's a waste of taxpayer dollars. Yeah, the party of big government spending and sky-high taxes is suddenly concerned about fiscal responsibility. Now, never mind that this shutdown has already cost the U.S. billions. It's apparently a waste of our money to spend 0.1% of a $4.4 trillion federal budget to secure our borders and protect our people from illegal aliens, dangerous criminals, and drugs. Now, here's why this argument is so hilarious. The U.S. government wastes our money all the time, every single day. In fact, here are just a few things that they spent our money on in just the past several years. We spent $65 million on Pacific coastal salmon recovery. Now, I love a good salmon fillet. I cook mine in some herb butter with a nice mango salsa. But you know, I'd also love it if our cities weren't infested with MS-13 gang violence and we weren't finding the bodies of teenagers shot to death and hacked up with machetes. So, you know, if we can spend $65 million saving some fish, surely we can shuck out a few bucks to keep out dangerous thugs from other countries. Just a thought. We also spent $11 million on an aquatic plant control program and $663,000 for a brown tree snake eradication program in Guam.
Every effort to eradicate the invasive species has so far failed.
We gave $13 million to the Save America's Treasures Grants program and $2.8 million to the National Capital Arts and Cultural Affairs Grant program. Not a clue. In 2018, we gave $17 million to the Asia Foundation, which is, quote, committed to improving lives across a dynamic and developing Asia. And another $16.7 million to the East-West Center in Hawaii. We don't really know what they do. We also gave about $67 million to the National Endowment for Democracy, which is supposed to help support democracies all across the world. Don't really know what they do either. Did you know that since the year 2000, we have spent more than $52 million on housing for chimpanzees? No! The National Institutes for Health spent 5 years and $1.6 million on a study to determine whether people who are paid to lose weight lose more than those who are not paid to lose weight.
Get in my belly!
Now, here in Common Sense land, we just call that duh. In 2017, the National Endowment for the Arts spent $30,000 in taxpayer grant money on a production of Hamlet starring, get this, dogs. And all of this isn't even a drop in the bucket. The list goes on and on and on without end. From billions spent on DoD projects that were ultimately scrapped to millions in grants for things like teaching a lion how to walk on a treadmill and studying aggression levels in hamsters. Congress has appropriated and wasted obscene amounts of our money on ridiculous crap for years. So if congressional Democrats were truly concerned about wasting taxpayer dollars, they wouldn't be tossing our hard-earned cash out the window like it was monopoly money. And maybe, just maybe, we wouldn't be nearly $22 trillion in debt. So until Capitol Hill stops doling out millions for things like preserving the Domaki language of northern Pakistan, yeah, that was a thing, you can spare me your lectures about how securing our country is suddenly a waste of taxpayer money. Get off your worthless rear ends down there in Puerto Rico and build the dang wall.
All right, welcome back. We're in our last hour here of Live with Lou. We're here at the Patriot KMYC, and I was talking to Dave Greenitz. I went into Red Robin, and my friends tip and stuff. Sometimes they give me some gift cards as a Christmas gift or something. So they know I like to eat. So and I don't like to cook because it never tastes right. So I always I eat. When other people cook, it always tastes better to me. So I was over at Red Robin, and I ran into Dave Greenitz Construction, and his wife, Leslie. So they said, oh, come over and we'll talk. Let's eat together. So I was telling Dave, I was asking Dave, Dave, is it going okay? Your business, he does Greenitz Construction. They do like the bathrooms and kitchens. They just take these funky looking old bathrooms and kitchens and make them look like, it's just totally amazing. You got to go on the website to check it out, greenitzconstruction.com. Anyway, one of the problems is that once he does a remodel in a bathroom, you can't ever get anybody out of there. So they have to call the police to because the wife will never, she just said, I just want to hang out in here, right? And he doesn't want to spend any time with her husband anymore. Just like, hey, you can't get him out of there because it's so nice in there. It's like, hey, I like it. I'd rather be here than with you. So it's a problem. It's a social problem. So I was asking him, he said, oh, Lou, I think he told me he had like 28 bathrooms lined up to do or something, kitchens and bathrooms. So I said, for a while there, I was suggesting he give the customers a personality test to make sure they'd get along, right? But I said, maybe we ought to have a Greenitz lottery, a Greenitz construction lottery, where if you want them to do your house, you got to throw your name in the hat to see whether in 2019 you could get a chance of getting them done. So anyway, I can't remember who they're. I think they're visiting they're back in. They're headed to Chicago. I thought, oh my God, it's at Chicago. It's like who would want to go there right now? It's like going to the Arctic Circle to visit. But anyway, Greenitz Construction is one of the helpers to keep us going on this show, and we appreciate Dave is our longest sponsor from the very beginning. He's helped us stay afloat out here. And I said, I'm taking all the credit for his business, which is booming. It's booming. He said, Lou, he said, I've got some great employees that do amazing work, and they do amazing work. When I have problems, of course, I don't have any fancy things at my house. It's an old house, and I just kind of keep it together. So I just give a list of all the broken stuff, and when I go to China or Vietnam, he just comes in at his convenience, and when I get back, everything's fixed, like all the loose wiring and toilets that have fallen over to the left or right. They fix them. So anyway, way to go, Greenitz, and he's doing good. So we want to thank him for helping us, and also the plumbing doctor, Ted Holmes. They're getting ready to, this week, I think Monday night, they're having a brainstorming session. They're going to take a team to Cuba, do a project in Cuba. Isn't that amazing? A missions project down there. And Ted Holmes has the plumbing doctor, and actually his new vans don't look so much like an ambulance anymore, but Sharia Fado used to call me and said, are you okay? Because the plumbing doctor looked like an ambulance out front. It would be in front of my house giving me a plumbing tune-up, and she thought I was having a heart attack. Anyway, we were talking about Scott Mitnick and the fiasco, and they're just, what troubles me about government? If you go to a restaurant and they screw up your order or something, I just eat it anyway. I'm so happy that somebody's cooking for me. I eat whatever they bring me. They say, oh, we didn't order that? Oh, I said, whatever. It's food. I'll eat it, A starving man never asks for a menu, as they say. So, we were talking about Scott Mitnick, and it's interesting, if you order the wrong thing or something gets goofed up with a business, private business, they apologize, right? They say, I'm sorry, we'll make it right. We'll do this, we'll do that. We'll bring out something different. Something happens to your house. Like one time when I was working for Russell and Bowles Paint, we painted the house the wrong color, right? We were painting tract homes, right? So they wanted this one to go that color. They were spec homes, right? Nobody was living in them. This one, that color, this one, this. They're like Easter eggs. This one, that color, this one, this color, this one, that. And the guy painted the house the wrong color, right? They made a goof. It looked good, but it was the color that the contractor didn't want. So we repainted it, right? Said, sorry about that, right? In government, they will drop $500,000 of your dollars on a total screw-up and never comment. In fact, it's even worse than that. They hide it. Don't tell anybody. Did it come? Was it printed in the agenda? Oh, well, let's just not say anything. Don't do a news release. You pay a guy that's damaged goods from Thousand Oaks, California. You bring him in. Don't bring it up. Oh, my God. The newspaper looked into his history. Oh, now we got, that was just a big it was just, everybody deserves a second try, right? The supervisor said, oh, well, this is good. Why didn't you just go out and look for more people? Oh, well, that's the answer. Just what it is bull, S-H-I-T. It's bull, S-H-I-T, right? That's what you get for these supervisors. Just a lot of crap, right? What about the professionals rejecting him? Oh, well, why did you pick him? Oh, you don't think they're a good choice? Oh, we're trusting in Jim Whitaker and Dan the Mexican Flores. We trust in them. Those guys are really bright, even though they grab girls' titties, right? Whitaker is really, we can trust him. So they sell this guy who let's see, the headhunter, 2 years, a little over 2 years, about $10,000 a year, I figure, right? Just in headhunting fees. Would you ever pay that private business? Figure, oh, yeah, it's just going to cost us $10,000 to keep an executive in their spot. And then we're going to write this big news release. Well, yes, he came to work every day. God bless him. Well, yes, he rented a building. You know how many buildings I've leased in my life? Holy mackerel, man, or decisions I've made. No, I don't add that to my resume. It's like I did my job. I went to work, and actually I added figures. I signed a lease. I bought cars. I dug ditches. We painted a lot of houses. I sold a lot of vehicles. Whatever job you're in, like at what point does it become miraculous that you did your job and you add it in a news release? These are my accomplishments. Oh, my God, right? I did my job, and so now I should get a bonus. You get just for doing your job. You didn't do anything spectacular. You didn't save a life. You didn't convert a heroin addict to a tax-paying citizen. You just came up here and did your job. You came up and inconvenienced yourself to fly up from Ventura County. And it's like anymore, the sissified spirit of America. If a guy doesn't steal from you and rape you, he gets a bonus. It's amazing. And you give him a gold plaque. That's only in government that you get that. Gold plaque because he didn't steal from you, rape from you, or defraud you. And so we're right on the verge of spending $1 million to set up a homeless camp next to behavioral health. And that's some sort of an accomplishment. The interesting thing is, would you hire somebody, like I have friends of mine that are coming off drugs, and they want me to get them a job. I said, I feel nervous about getting you a job because are you going to stay there? Well, I might go to jail. I'm fighting a case. I said, well, then why go get a job? Because unless it's a day job, like day labor job, a person that hires you is going to want to invest in you and invest time in you so you can become skilled at what they want you to do, and then you're going to have to go to jail. So that's a loser for them. A lot of people like Scott Mitnick, they took the job. It was all about them. It was never about Sutter County and being loyal to Sutter County or serving Sutter County. The guy was set up to screw Sutter County from the very beginning. He knew it when he came here. He didn't just after a year and a half think, oh, my God, I'm 50 years old. I think I'm going to retire. You're kidding me, right? I thought he was really bright. I thought he was all dialed in. He was a financial specialist. So you're telling me that he just woke up one morning, had a cup of coffee, and was shocked he was in Sutter County working and thought, I don't want to work here another 10 or 15 years. On one hand, is he sharp or is he stupid? On one hand, are the supervisors idiots or are they the brightest thing we've ever imagined? Did they intentionally hire a person that they knew was only going to be here 2 years, or are they just stupid? And they couldn't read, or they had no discernment. There's a concept called discernment in the Bible, spirit of discernment. These guys at Sutter County, they get a big old fat F on discernment. If they didn't know that guy was coming up to screw the county, they're clueless and shouldn't even be there. They should resign. They should resign along with Mr. Mitnick. Why would you spend all these people's time, Citizens Committee, a professional committee, a headhunter? Oh, yeah, we got the whole wheels turning, right? And you end up hiring a guy that's only going to, they didn't ask him, hey, are you you're not going to move? Oh, wait a minute, you're not going to move your family here? Wait. They wouldn't want to ask that question? You're going to commute from Ventura County? They didn't ask that question in the interview? And when they sent an attorney in to negotiate, they wouldn't ask, hey, wait a minute, we want him to serve at least 10 years here, or we're not going to take him. There was no like prenup agreement, 5 years, 10 years. In other words, what if he decided to serve 1 year? Was that okay with Whitaker and Flores? Either they were totally clueless hiring this guy, or they were in on a scam. Sutter County got scammed. Anybody that looks at the contract that guy was given to work here, he was a prima donna. That guy should have cured cancer, diabetes, and Alzheimer's before he walked out of that job. We're paying that guy more than doctors are getting. For what? Renting the Kmart? Figuring out how to buy some tough sheds and shove homeless people in them? Hiring a medical firm to take over and fire a bunch of nurses out of the jail? That's brilliance. Honestly, a sharp senior in high school could pull that off. Are you kidding me? Who do you think these people are? And then he spends his time trying to convince folks that he really is living up here. He's sharing an apartment with somebody. You don't move your wife up here, but you're going to do 10 or 15 years service up here? And so every couple of years now, Sutter County, are you going to be having a headhunter spend $25,000 and $30,000, $40,000 of taxpayer money to go fish around for another executive? Is that what we're doing? You talk about waste. You talk about lose confidence of the taxpayer in your ability to manage the county. Well, that's the only guy who would come up here. Nobody wants to come here. That's really sad, man. That is really sad. And it's amazing to me. When is the last time you ever heard a county administrator apologize for screwing over the taxpayers? Having to pay because they mismanaged the government, paying out $500,000 because they screwed up a construction project, paying out $250,000 because a public works director, too lazy to file the reports, walks away with a retirement and all his pay and sticks the city of Marysville with a $250,000 penalty. Was there any apology? I'm sorry. This was terrible. Never an admission of guilt. You're no damn different than a rapist who won't admit raping the gal and just said, no, I didn't do it. Oh, your DNA, your sperm was all over, right? You were seen with her. You were seen on top of her. No, I didn't do it. No, I can't. No, I didn't do it. Never any admission, but people like Mitnick will go into Red Robin and probably get all over the waitress. Oh, this is fine. This is not a good hamburger, right? And she'll apologize to him. He wouldn't accept it, right? But he would never apologize. Government never apologizes for screwing you over. I just get sick of it. Except those very same people will go out to the private industry and run people ragged because they aren't bending over backwards to serve them, and yet they are supposedly public servants and never will come clean on a total full-blown screw-up because somebody didn't do their job. That ain't right, folks. And then they hide it. That's even worse. You talk about a double standard, city council members, supervisors, bureaucrats. Oh, yeah. Well, don't let it get out. Don't let it get out. I didn't. It's just like the Measure K. Well, the supervisor said, well, we weren't really for it. We just wanted to put it on the ballot so the folks would have a choice. Come on, man. You think the smell of manure is like all over you, dude. Like, quit shoveling it. Just be admitted. Why don't you just be honest? Honest, man. Just try some honesty for a change. Oh, well, I am just totally impartial. Totally impartial. We're just serving you. Like, I didn't ask any tax measure to go on the ballot. Did anybody else? I never saw any letters to the editor. Please, please, please put a tax measure on the ballot. I can't sleep at night. I just can't sleep at night because we need more money. We need, there just isn't enough money being wasted by government, so we just need more money. Unbelievable. Well, it's just, it's a crazy world out there. I noticed, if a athletic team is invited to the White House and rejects it, the media just loves it. Like, we can't go to the White House because we can't stand to be in the same room with the President of the United States. I say, go screw yourself, Golden State Warriors. So then when a team accepts it, like the Clemson Tigers, that happen to have a Christian coach and has some integrity, Jesse Jackson, of all people, I don't even know what Jesse Jackson's profession is besides a pimp, a hustler and a pimp, a charlatan. Jackson, I think he needed to be in the media. So Jesse Jackson, the Reverend Jesse Jackson, he claims he was offended. He got offended. The Bible says, it's interesting, the Bible says, don't be offended. Don't get offended by something else that happens to some people. Don't let offense rise up in your heart, right? Because it pollutes us. So he claims he was offended by the fast food meal that President Trump arranged for the Clemson Tigers when they came. So instead of hors d'oeuvres, he gave them fast. It wasn't a sit-down dinner where you could have barbecue. So they just stacked up some burgers and fries and et cetera, because I don't know how long it's been since Jesse had a burger, but college people, young people, like burgers. They like burgers. In fact, did you say that Paul Ward flew to Texas to go to Whataburger?
Yep, flew there for what? Well, he said he was on his way to Florida to visit family, but I think he just used that as a cover to.
But he went to Whataburger.
Yeah.
And so, but they won't. Whataburger isn't in California, huh?
Nope, not in California.
Well, I was wondering, Darren Gale, who's the promoter for the city of Yuba City for businesses. He's the beer Nazi. He's the one Darren has amazing power. Darren, if you want to have a business in Yuba City, he can say you can have beer or you can't have a beer, right? He's the beer Nazi. So he shut down Kumar from having a beer, selling 16-ounce beer over there at Washington Avenue Market. So I was wondering if maybe we should give a shout out to Darren Gale and see if we can get a Whataburger in town. He's got power.
It's worth a try.
So he just call him up, I think. And the other thing I was thinking, people have been telling me how good Chick-fil-A. You ever had Chick-fil-A?
Not yet. Making a trip. It's on my bucket list.
Is that in California? Do they have them in California?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's some in Sacramento.
Really?
Sure. Yeah.
Chick-fil-A?
Or Roseville, maybe? Yeah.
Anyway, Chick-fil-A, and we need a Chick-fil-A and a what? You know how people post on Facebook, we need Trader Joe's. We need Italian something, or whatever these new restaurants are. I don't know what they are. I'm all for good food. So we'll just put a shout out to Darren Gale. He's like the big dog over in Yuba City trying to build all these new businesses over there. Let's put a formal request in from Live with Lou that we need a Whataburger and we need a Chick-fil-A, right? I think I could go to heaven after that if we could just get that done. You know how some people they're on their deathbed and they won't die, they won't die. They're just waiting for something to happen. Said if a Chick-fil-A happened, I'll tell you, I might even quit the show. Just shut down Live with Lou. If we could get a Whataburger. Paul Ward, did he text you? Is that what he did?
Yeah, he texted me.
Paul Ward texted you from Texas?
Yeah, from an airport in Texas, yeah.
And he was having a Whataburger?
Yep, just had to let us know. He heard us talking about it in the show, so he just had to find out for himself.
Was it good? Did he say it was good?
Yeah, he said it was really good, yeah. He compared it more to a Sonic burger than a Carl's Jr., but either one I think is a fair comparison.
I don't know. I'm not an expert on I like burgers.
I still like Whataburger better.
Somebody said it's salt. Did they have a lot of salt on it, seasoning on it or
Not
something?
that I noticed, but I probably couldn't taste the salt over the jalapenos, though.
Oh, you put jalapenos on the burger.
Oh, man, yeah.
Unbelievable. Well, Jesse Jackson did not he says, it's amazing to me, of all the trouble in the world, people dying of malaria and AIDS, and blacks shooting blacks. Jesse Jackson, he couldn't find anything else to talk about but attacking Trump. He said it was disgraceful. I thought, hey, some college guys going to the White House, let's have some burgers with Trump. I thought, if I went to the White House and they served me a burger, I'd say hallelujah to you, dude. I'd say, what? Yeah, I don't even need anything else. Just give me a cup of water to hose it down with. I don't even need coffee or anything. But Jackson said, it was disgraceful. The national champions deserve better. You know, I don't like this term deserved. I'm really getting pissed off at deserved. People say, I deserve that. You don't deserve crap. Nobody deserves anything. What do you think you deserve? Thank God when I got up in the morning, when I wake up in the morning, I said, thank you, Jesus. I'm breathing. I can see straight. I can get over to the toilet, take a pee. I said, I'm good, right? I don't deserve anything. He said, they deserve better. Many people, he said, felt offended. Did you feel offended by the burgers at Clemson? Nobody has said anything to me about burgers, and that the Clemson people, I don't think we'll probably have to, in 10 years, we'll have to see them in counseling. They'll say, what's the problem? Well, did something happen in your background? Were you raped? Was your mom a crack addict prostitute? No, I said, I went to the White House after we won the championship, and I was really expecting like tri-tip or something, or barbecue, and all there was burgers and fries and milkshakes and stuff like that. And I just think, wow, what a letdown. I worked really hard. I got a scholarship, and I was, played cornerback, and all I got out of it was a burger. Many people felt offended by it, Jackson said. I felt offended. Well, maybe you're offended today. I'm offended. I'm offended that government bureaucrats rip taxpayers off left and right. We'll be right back.
Bringing new meaning to the term first responders.
Fellow community members stepping forward, volunteering their time to help others faced with what might be some of the most traumatic incidents in their lives.
It's called the Trauma Intervention Program, or TIP. It's been used in communities across the United States for years, and its volunteers have been dispatched to provide what they call emotional first aid.
A collaboration between police, paramedics, fire departments, and even hospital staff is making sure residents are emotionally taken care of in a time of crisis. Residents are volunteering their time with the Trauma Intervention Program, or TIP, dispatched to the scene of a fire, accident, or death to focus on the emotional needs of those left behind.
It's just being there and being comforting, like a good friend or an extension of your family.
Ready to assist, sit, and listen to community members in a time of tragedy.
To learn more about the Trauma Intervention Program, visit yubasuttertip.org or call 673-9300.
So the California refugees from Idaho just texted, and they said they think the president paid for the whole meal out of his pocket. The Jesse Jackson complaint, right? He paid for the burgers. That doesn't surprise me, right? It kills me. The president of the United States is donating his salary to various departments in the United States government. One time it might be Department of Transportation, then it's Department of Education, Department of something, something, something. And it's amazing. It doesn't matter what Trump does. It's always wrong. So people say, oh, well, yeah, if I had that much money. No, you wouldn't give $100,000 a quarter to anything. You're just a liar. You're a hypocrite. And the fact is he's giving that money. And so it's like he pays for the meal. I thought, Jackson, why don't you put a dinner on for the – but, if Jesse Jackson put a dinner on for the Clemson Tigers, he wouldn't pay for it. He'd go out and extort money from some bank, claiming that most of the people were black, and therefore they owed him a meal, right? So Jackson said many people felt offended by it. I felt offended by it. Do you remember when Jackson knocked up that little girl? He's still calling himself a reverend. I mean, how? I don't know. Sharpton's the same way. Jackson says, I'm so proud of Clemson. And he called Dabo Sweeney a great man. Honestly, he's so full of crap. Do you see photos of Trump and Jackson and Sharpton hugging Trump, giving awards to Trump, shaking his hand, taking photo ops with him before he was president. They just loved old Trump. Why? Because he can give them stuff. These guys are total pimps, leeches, losers, charlatans. These people are you should be embarrassed to even, if they're been calling themselves American, you should be embarrassed to be associated with them. You know how you go overseas sometimes and you think, oh, man, you see some people giving somebody a hard time. I'm that way. If I see some white people or I think they're from America giving the Vietnamese hostess at the hotel a hard time, I'm totally embarrassed, right? Even if they're not from America. Maybe they're from Europe or Canada, and they're all getting gnarly in there. I thought, man, I'm so embarrassed. That's how I feel with these guys. So there's a growing number of liberals attacking the president for his fast food feast, including Michael Strahan, former NFL player. Like, how dare he serve hamburgers and French fries and onion rings or whatever he had. I thought, you people, you need to get a life. Go out and get a heroin addict hooker little girl that's been farmed out for sex trafficking. Why don't you go help somebody like that instead of arguing over French fries and tacos? Like, come on, man. I just think, can anybody call the station here and tell me a time when the government actually apologized for screwing you over and wasting all your money? Making a real stupid decision and cost you $100,000? They spend $25,000 for headhunters left and right. And what do they come back with? Something like the cat drug in, some old dead mouse or something. That's the best you get. Some old dead mouse from Ventura County that comes up here and tries to shut down the Sutter County Airport. That's what we got out of the deal. His plan to shut down the airport and try to catch somebody smuggling drugs in there so it made it look bad and create a big old scenario. He and Gene Jordan over there, the county council. These people are, honestly, were you shocked, even Sutter County people, that the supervisors gave the county council another 4-year contract? Amazing, or whatever they gave her. Well, I wanted to mention, because Wikiman played a clip, advertisement for trauma intervention. We have our annual Trauma Intervention Training Academy coming up. We just do it once a year, so you just can't join TIP anytime you want to. It's not like we don't want you. It's just we got to train you. And the reason we do that is that the emergency responders and our insurance company and all the people say, these people got to be trained, Lou, so we train them. And so we do it over a 2-week period. It's not every day for 2 weeks, but it's over a 2-week period. We train in the evening during the week and on the weekend days during the weekend, over 2 weeks. We train 8 sessions, and you can look at those sessions on our website. But we start February 28th. We train in Yuba City, and we can send you all the information. If you want to send me your number, just text me. I can give you my number, 530-713-1838. And or you can go on the yubasuttertip.com or .org. Is it .org? Dot something. I can't even remember it right now. Yuba Sutter Tip. You can just Google it, Yuba Sutter Tip. You'll figure it out. And you can go there and see all the dates, and you can communicate with me directly off that site. And it's about 35 hours in class session. And then we help you with some ride-alongs with law enforcement and fire, a hospital orientation, and then we get you out going and helping people, responding to 911 calls and helping families that are going through the toughest time of their life, providing emotional and practical support. So if you want to get involved in that and check it out, you can call me and ask me all the questions you want. I usually answer the phone 24 hours a day. I don't have office hours. And if you get a voicemail, that just means I'm on the other line. So you can call me at 530-713-1838. 713-1838. I think it's yubacettertip.org. That's our website if you want to go check us out. You can just go to the website. It should have something right on the front page about the Academy, or you can go to our volunteer page, and you can shoot me an email right off that page if you want to do it that way. You don't want to talk. You want to like snoop around without the nervousness. If you're a millennial, you don't want to talk directly with a person. But if you want to call or send a text, 713-1838, and we can chat. So we'd love to have volunteers. You need to be at least 14 years of age. And we don't have an age upper limit. We just, as long as you can go out there and get it on, you're good to go, and we'll train you. And if you have past experience, and like a lady called me, she said, "Oh, Lou, I know what you do." She said, "I used to work in the ER. I know all about you guys." So I just said, she said, "I want to get involved and do what you do." So any past training you have is a big benefit. But say you worked in the construction industry, or you worked in a total unrelated industry, we'll train you as long as you got what we like to say is a cool head and a warm heart. We got you. We'll get you squared away. So 530-713-1838, and we'll do this. Okay. So I noticed that the biggest breakthrough, they actually tunneled under one of the flakier sections of walls on the southern border just the other day. It's the biggest catch. Now, the people that are getting caught, I think they don't even care about getting caught right now. When they tunnel under, there were over 300 of them, if I can find it here. And they just all stood in line peaceably out there in the middle of nowhere, just getting signed up, because this crazy thing of if you can break in, then you can get the benefits of the United States of America and just live in jail, have your medical taken care of, get everything taken care of, and they even do some catch and release. So instead of like catching them and just putting them in a big paddy wagon and delivering them across back to the border and releasing them, you know how people, they have a litter of puppies, and instead of treating them humanely, they just take them out in the boonies and dump them off, right? That's what I think we should do to illegals coming in the country. In other words, whatever country they came from, like if they crossed the border from Mexico, just put them in a paddy wagon, take them to the border, and let them free. Like bugs in my house. Bugs want to come in my house. I opened the window because I took the screens off because I didn't like to clean the screens. So I said, I throw them out. And I just leave the whole, so the bugs come in. And then when I close the windows, if they didn't get a hint, like it's the end of the day, they should go back home. They wanted to, they hung out my house too long. I close the window, and then they want to get out after I close the window. And so I do my best, because I'm a humanitarian guy, I help them get out, and I shoo them out. And so that's what I'm suggesting. Why would I give a court hearing to somebody that's here illegally? Just take them back home if they didn't commit a crime other than breaking through the border. Like when I came through to Vietnam, one time I had a whole team of people. And Vietnam Embassy had screwed up my visa. And so when I talked to them over in Washington, D.C., they said, "Lou, we goofed it up." They actually apologized, said, "Sorry, we goofed it up." Different than Americans. So they said, "We're going to send you a letter saying we goofed it up, and we're going to give you another entrance into the country." 2 entrances, not just one. So here I go, and I go in through Hanoi, and then we leave, go back to Hong Kong, and then I'm coming back to Saigon. And when I get to Saigon, they said, "Hey, wait a minute, your visa's not correct." I said, "Yeah, I know it's not, because you guys screwed it up over in Washington, D.C. Embassy." And I said, "This letter proves it." They said, "We don't believe that letter. Anybody can make a letter like that, right? We don't care whether our embossed signature, all that Vietnamese language is on there. Anybody can do that." So I said, "What do you mean anybody?" They told me this is going to be good. They said, "Hey, we don't care what you say. We'll give you 2 choices. Get on the plane. That's like our equivalent of dumping you back across San Ysidro into Tijuana. get on the plane and go back to Hong Kong, or go over there to that window over there and pay another $185 and take another photo and, come through the proper way. Otherwise, you're out of here, dude. And I kept asking for the next guy up, like we do in America. Can I speak to your boss? They said, forget that next guy up deal. Hong Kong or that window and $185. I said, okay, window and $185, right? So what we need to do is, because the immigration courts are loaded, is it's stupid to offer due process to people that just broke into your house from another country. Right? It's one thing if your neighbor broke into your house, he gets due process, innocent till proven guilty. Why? He could slit 100 people's throats, but he isn't going to get thrown into another country. He gets due process here, and he can spend the rest of his life in prison if convicted of his crime, right? But if you're from a foreign country, you don't have any rights in this country. You don't even belong in this country, right? Some of the liberals think everybody belongs here. You know what the real problem is? Enough liberals haven't been stabbed, shot, and raped by these illegal immigrants. I don't know whether they just can smell a conservative, and that's the person they want to shot. I don't even know whether Kate Steinle was a conservative. But it just seems like all these people that get killed, they never are a Pelosi or a Schumer kid, or a Pelosi kid, or a Garamendi kid. That's what we need, is more and more of those people get raped and killed and run over by a Mexican drunk driver. By the way, I was logging this 5:30. I was looking at this. I was looking at Harold Kruger's article on that 5:30 Facebook site, and somebody had posted all these molesters. They were local molesters. And I'm telling you, the majority of those dudes are Mexican guys. And I thought, what is it? Is there a cultural tendency for Mexican guys to molest young girls? I thought, I don't know. I mean, certainly that happens in all demographics. But I just I just scrolled through they had photos. I thought, I might know. And I knew a couple of the guys. And I thought, I wonder if I know these guys. Somebody did photos of all these local molesters. And I thought, holy mackerel, I didn't know that guy was a molester. But a lot of them, more than the demographic population breakdown, right? It's like at juvenile hall. Oh, by the way, you guys at juvenile hall, I want to give you a shout out, the Cannabis Club over there, and I want to give you a tip. One of the listeners sent this to me. He says, listen, if you're trying to sell dope or buy dope, meth, if you got a meth deal going and the guy you're working with still has his teeth, the guy very well may be a cop, right? So what you want to do if you're dealing in the meth business, make sure the people are missing some of their teeth. Then you know you're dealing with a legit guy. But if the guy's got a good set of teeth, the guy's probably a narcotics agent. Just a thought. So that's your truth for the day over there at the Cannabis Club. And we'll see you tomorrow morning, of course, when we come in there, and then Monday night. But we're going to give a shout out to you guys. So anyway, these migrants, what we need to do is lighten the load on the immigration court. Like some people over in the Yuba County Jail that are being held on deportation holds because it's an ICE facility. Did you know that? There's local people being held there that have done crimes, that are citizens of the United States, and then there's illegal aliens that haven't committed a crime. They committed a crime once upon a time, did their time somewhere else, and now the reason they're in the Yuba County Jail is they're just simply there on a deportation hold. They could leave any time. There's almost 200 people there. And they could leave any moment they wanted. They could just say, I want out of jail. And they'd let them out. All they have to do is sign a form that says, I want to go back to Honduras or China or Mexico. They just have to sign to say, I want to leave. And they'll let them go. And they'll fly them back. And but they don't want to because I have a guy in there. He was in my class last week. I said, Rios, how long have you been here? He said, I've been here over 2 years in Yuba County Jail. You know the only reason? He could leave in a moment and go to Mexico. He has come into this country numerous times. He's a drunk driver. He's been arrested over 4 times on DUIs, and then he pulled a gun on a guy in a bar, and that's how he got in trouble. Now, he says if they deport me, if he loses his case, then I'm just going to come back across the border. Now, that's the problem we have. And because you have lawbreakers. He's a lawbreaker coming into the country, and he's a lawbreaker in the country. I'm trying to get him converted so he decides to obey the law wherever he lives in the world. I think that's a good idea, obey the law, right? But so you have these people that are lawbreakers, but they could leave anytime, in just a very short period of time. They just have to sign a document I want to go back to my country, whether it's Portugal, Brazil, Venezuela, El Salvador, Philippines, Laos, whatever. There's people in the Yuba County Jail. We're paying, taxpayers are paying about $100 a night for them to be there. Every day, $100, 100 times about 160, 70 people. It's amazing, huh? And so they could leave, and some of them have. I met a massage therapist or massage gal from China. She got in trouble over here with a husband she couldn't get along with, and she said, Lou, I don't want to stay in jail, so I'm going back to China. I'm going to, and they flew her to Shanghai. She just signed a document, boom, she's gone. So, but people don't want to do that. They think, hey, I'm going to wait it out. I'm going to appeal my case. So what happens is the immigration courts of the United States of America are just totally clogged. If everybody that got arrested in the United States of America, citizens of the United States, if they refused to plea bargain, the whole justice system would come to a collapse. Do you know that? The only reason we're keeping this thing going is all these American citizens plea bargain, right? And take a deal. But there's no deal in immigration. They either win their case or they are deported or they voluntarily deport, right? But I'm telling you, that's how bad, because if they win the immigration lottery, if they get allowed to stay here, they know it's worth hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars in free benefits. If you eliminate those benefits and put up a wall, I'm telling you, you would not have people wanting to come to this country. Right now, there are home after home after home in Orange County, and illegal immigrants are flying in here and getting in here. They're coming in on all kinds of temporary visas, delivering babies here, and they're baby homes. Maternity homes, and they live in those homes and pay $5,000 or $10,000, and then walk over and deliver in a hospital, and we pay for it. You and I pay for it. They don't pay a nickel for that baby delivery, and that kid becomes a child because of the stupid, twisted anchor baby philosophy that liberals think there's in the Constitution. It's a total lie, but that's what's happening. A total scam. This whole immigration thing is a scam, and so that's what's going on. So we're going to shut her down here. Are you going to be live next week? We're live. So Wiki Man. He's got himself a job now. There's like all kinds of freedom on Saturday. So we'll be back doing a live show next week, Lord willing, and KMYC is. I noticed there's water in the rain gauge. Oh, by the way, oh my God, we're seeing. They went up and took the measurement on the snow here a while back and said, oh, global warming, we're running out of water. And then I look at the October to date, we've had 11.5 inches, and last year had only 7.6 inches. And now it's 11 inches. And now I just saw we got 100 inches of snow in the last week. 100 inches. And all these, honestly, these political people. And if you don't pay attention, you just get jerked around in the nose by all these liars and the working for the government. All right, we're done for the day. And these guys, sports guys, say are they here? They're here. They're all gnawing out there, flossing at the mouth. All right, we're going to go. See you later.